Actually, what we'll do is have that conversation again for the record on this item. But we're reconvening from closed session. Gary, do you have anything to report out of closed session?
Yes, tonight's closed session was held. There's no reportable action.
All right, thank you, Gary. We're now on to open session, the consent calendar. And before we entertain any revisions or a motion on the consent calendar, are there any members of the public who would like to comment? Yes, we have Anita.
Mayor Nander, I am unmuting you. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you very much. I had intended to speak before you went into closed session. I did not intend to be put into the closed session with you guys, so I wanted you to know that. And when I found out that's what had happened, that's why I hung up. So I just wanted to clarify that for you and for the record.
Thank you.
I find this more convenient than watching on YouTube because it is the only way to participate. And I was frankly surprised that you weren't using the other options of Zoom that allows you to go into to a breakout room. So it makes it, just so you know, it makes it very inconvenient for someone like me who is an alternate and trying to just pay attention to what's going on and perhaps participate. And that's why I'm on via Zoom, when I then literally for the last 45 minutes, every 2 minutes I've been pinging, trying to get back in just to see when you were going to come out of closed session. It's an extraordinarily inconvenient circumstance and situation process that you're using. That's the end of my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, and duly noted. And we'll I'll work with the team to try to figure out a better way to do it. So thank you. Now, bringing it back to the board, are there any questions, comments on the items on consent? And I know that there were some questions about the minutes. So if we can have those on the record for the changes. Mayor Walia, you had.
Thank you. I believe Auden has made the correction. I had emailed her a couple of hours before the meeting that the April 14th meeting, item number 7, the vote was incorrectly posted in the original minutes for myself and for, is it Milpitas Montano? And both the votes were indicating aye, both of us were no. And I have checked based on Auden's comment just at 7 o'clock that she has updated the minutes to correct those 2 votes. So I'm good with the revision, with that revision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Watanabe.
Thank you, Chair Jones. I just wanted the minutes to reflect that I was actually not present at the April 14th meeting and that my alternate, Anthony Becker, was in attendance in my place. So we just needed that one change made.
Great. And with that change, can you make the motion to accept the consent agenda?
I'm very happy to make the motion to accept the consent calendar for this meeting.
With the amended minutes.
With the amendment.
The minutes.
Thank you.
Can I get a second, please?
Second, Flagger.
All right. Auden?
Do we need to take public comment on this?
Auden? I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you
Oh,
said.
can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, I was asking if we need to take public comment on this or if the one before was sufficient.
Yes, that was.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll now call the roll. Elahi?
Yes.
Elahi, I, Walia.
Aye.
Walia, I, Klein.
Aye.
Klein, I. Liver Munoz.
Yes.
Liver Munoz, I. Bybee.
Aye.
Bybee, I. Sayak.
Aye.
Sayak, I. Abakoga.
Aye.
Abakoga, I. Jones.
Aye.
Jones, I. Fliger.
Yes.
Fliger, I. Watanabe.
Yes.
Watanabe, I. Burt.
Yes.
Burt, I. And Mock.
Yes.
Mock, I. With 12 ayes, the motion carries.
Thank you. Next item is consideration of approval of proposed fiscal year 22-23 budget and dues. And Joanne is going to walk us through the documents.
Thank you, President Jones. First of all, recognizing that the budget year this year will be beginning with really no money, and that last year there were unusual expenses that spent down the reserves, and therefore we were unable to achieve actually the bylaws goal of creating reserves to cover 6 to 9 months of operating expenses. I made a proposed budget and presented it at the April board meeting, and there was discussion, and it was suggested that perhaps maybe the membership dues should be increased in order to allow the Cities Association to move forward and perhaps begin building a reserve fund again. And so I developed a revised budget and took it to the executive board. And I also provided a proposed dues increase, which was reviewed by the executive board. And the suggestion was that the 5 smallest cities continue to have the dues at the past year's assessment with no dues increase. And the 10 larger cities would then have the increase. So if you go to the budget, proposed budget, you can still see that it's a very bare bones budget. We would be getting membership dues with a dues increase if adopted of $281,401.
Hey, Joanne, can you or Auden put?
Auden can share the screen. She's got the ability.
One moment, please.
No worries.
Okay, thank you. And can you move it? That's the actual, yeah, there you go. Okay, you can see that the membership dues, if we adopted the due schedule, having increase of dues for the 10 largest cities and no increase for the 5 smallest cities, it would be $281,401. Late interest is $291, as we know that your money hasn't been accumulating too much interest. And then obviously, because we don't have any reserves, the only money that you're going to get from interest will be at the beginning of the year when the dues start to come in. I put staffing costs to be all of the labor. That would be the acting executive director, a clerk and IT support and bookkeeping. And that comes up to about $166,530. I increased the legal budget to $84,000. Gary's been working on a number of things, and coming around the bend after we look at putting some of the things behind us, we still have a look at a retention schedule and possibly changing the organization to a JPA. But that has not been decided yet. Let's see, can you go up, Auden? Can you move it up a little bit? Yeah, so. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It,
It's a little tricky.
the computer's going a little out of control right now.
Well, to end up with the next largest, when we get there. No, you're go a little bit further up. Yeah, the expenses. Okay, so the office expenses, we do have general office expenses, and they are listed there for things such as workman comp insurance, general liability insurance. We don't have it now, but we're looking to get some again. Gusto is our payroll service. Union Bank fees, $36 is a fee paid to the bank. Peninsula Storage Center is $0, but if we decide to move forward with retention and archiving our files, we'll need to keep that center for a while longer, or the storage center.
Adam, can you slightly scroll up just a smidget?
Up or down?
Down.
Or
yeah, right there.
There you go.
Yeah, so we do have an office phone. We do have a post office box, dues and subscriptions, such as League of California Cities, recognition and hospitality. If you're going back to hybrid meetings and having in-person meetings, I'm expecting that you would have some refreshments. Technology and software, those are all licensing fees. And again, we can look at some of those if they're not important or the board decides they aren't. We have the claim deductible for workplace insurance, but I guess it's $5,000. I put $2,000, so I must have had that incorrect. $2,000 for the holiday party and $2,000 for the general membership meeting. And that brings us to $270,000. So the revenue less expenses is $11,190, which would be a very small beginning to a reserve fund. So we can go down to the dues if you like.
Yes, please.
So this is a chart of the dues getting $270,000. If you look at the left, you see the cities, the dues category, which has been assigned in the past few years to the different cities, and then the dues that each of those cities paid. The population, another way of looking at it, instead of using this category, in order to get 270,000, I decided to look at the population and do a per capita for the 10 largest cities. And so I took the LAFCO population that is current, applied the per capita fee, and then basically you divide what you need, which is 270,000, into the 513, which is the per capita fee, and you end up with the formula. And can we slide it to the right a little bit, Autumn? Or maybe bookmark, get rid of the bookmarks so that we can get a fuller screen. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And so you will see, can we still get a little bit further? Well, those would be the increases in the dues. Where it says 0, it's because the dues are not raised. The per capita fund did not apply to them. We kept the dues from last year at their current level. So that's the report, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Joe. And I also wanted Margaret to also speak to the rationale behind why we wanted to increase the dues. So before we go to you, Nisa, I wanted Margaret to weigh in.
Thank you, President Jones. So so I've been tasked to spearhead the committee, an ad hoc committee, to look for a new acting executive director with Mariko. And part of part of that was to look at the salaries that we have been providing and what we should provide into the future. And so there was, as you notice, there's an increase there. I think in the past, the total payroll was about 120,000, and we're asking for 166,000. And that's basically an increase on the acting executive director's salary. What I did was look at what we were paying our now former executive director and our current acting executive director, and basically just averaged it out and came up with an amount. And so that it's an hourly amount times what we're looking at is probably a 30-hour week time commitment, although that ebbs and flows. This is the 166 is really the cap, the maximum. I anticipate, though, as we hire a new acting executive director, we could get a better sense of what the time commitment really is. And my sense is that it will be lower than what we've budgeted for, but I just wanted to be conservative and budget what I thought was would be reasonable in being able to hire someone new, given our past experience. So, and then the legal, I don't know if you want me to talk about the legal amount, but as mentioned, part of, as we move forward, and I appreciate Stanley's comments, I think part of this is we have to figure out what kind of organization we're going to be, what formal status we will take, and that will actually lead to our being able to determine our future staffing needs, our permanent staffing needs. So we will need legal counsel to help us through that process. And so that is why Gary's budget is higher than it has been in the past. And I also I just realized too that we've been spending down our reserves. And so that's how we've been able to keep our membership fees low. But now that we've expended it, we really have to begin to replenish that. So those are some of the reasons for the increased fees that we're asking for. And happy to answer questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Fliger.
Thank you, President Jones. I just wanted to clarify on the proposed budget on the cities that will have a $0 increase from the last period. Just to clarify that one of the reasons why we decided to include that in the proposed budget is when we applied the per capita formula, those cities would actually have to pay a lower dues amount this year. And so the executive team did not think that was fair to have some cities pay less. And so we recommended moving them back to the amount they paid the last time. I didn't want members to get the impression that somehow those cities weren't having their dues increased. It was in order that their dues did not go lower this year, why you're seeing a $0 amount. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Leroy Munoz.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. One quick comment, then a question with regard to Gary Baum Services as attorney. I've worked with him now in a couple of different contexts, and he is worth every penny. So he's really cutting us a break. We're getting a great deal on all of his wonderful experience and service. My question has to go to the executive director compensation there. And I think I missed it. The $166K as the cap, is that salary, or is that salary and any ancillary benefits with it?
It's salary plus the employer taxes.
Okay, so it's all that's kind of all in then.
Yeah,
got it. And Councilmember Abe Koga, thank you for kind of giving us a little bit of the background there on how you got to that number, and I appreciate you being conservative as you plan these things out. Given a higher, compensation package, are we thinking of any additional roles and responsibilities for the executive director, whoever might take that role in the future?
So it's listed as I think staffing needs, because it is, and part of that, everything's rolled into that. So the bookkeeping, the frankly, Auden's position. And I think we have to explore how we want to staff in the future. And so whether it becomes the executive director handling all of those tasks as it was in the past, or if we continue to break it out as we have more recently, that's to be determined. So it's all inclusive of all of our staffing needs that we can think of at this time.
Very good. That's very helpful. Thank you, council member.
Thank you, Mayor Bybee.
Actually, it's Vice Mayor, but
Oh,
thank,
sorry.
thank you for the upgrade.
All right, Vice Mayor.
I need a little clarification. I don't understand. I understand that a dues increase is necessary in order to fund the budget and start to build up reserves. But I don't understand of the small cities why 2 are getting subject to a dues increase and 5 are staying or not. And I don't understand the methodology used to determine that. If I could get a better explanation of that, I'd appreciate it.
Well, I'll start out by trying to tackle it. So based on the formula that Joanne used, those particular cities would have received reduction in their dues payment. And so we did not want them to have a reduction. We want, at the very least, keep their dues, the same as they were before. For the other cities, based on the formula and calculation, it turned out to be a dues increase. So that was the rationale why they were zeroed out, as opposed to a reduction.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mayor Ellie.
Thank you. Yeah, I know that you Centers is picking up most of the tab. I mean, you're going from about a $13,000 due to about a $55,000 due. So I can't fault that. I mean, I just wanted to say, you guys have picked up a lot of tab, and I don't really have an issue with the basic fees. I mean, it's obviously population-wise, we should be at 1,800, and we're going to be paying 6,500. But but some of the benefits that are being the member probably provides. But I really, as a rookie, would you guys humor me a little bit and tell me exactly what the Cities Association does and why it should continue as an association? And why should it have its own staff and its own council rather than having the presidents? The city that runs the president uses their staff and their council to move things along, like the West Valley Mayors and Association does. I'm sure there is there, but just humor me. Let me know what does the Cities Association do that requires us to spend $200,000 a year, or $280,000 a year?
Well, it's a platform and an opportunity for all the 15 cities in the county to come together, work together, move forward policy. It's also advantageous for particularly the smaller cities because it gives you a larger regional footprint in terms of pushing forward policies that benefit your cities, as opposed to each individual city trying to move those policies forward. So it really creates economies of scale. Also, one of the benefits that I've seen is that the cities and members who have been active, when they want to put their names up for appointments for regional positions, they're a known person. It's a different dynamic in terms of the vetting process, and several members of the Cities Association have moved on to serve on other regional boards and commissions. And I think that this has been a really good platform. And again, particularly for the smaller cities who would not have that opportunity to have that larger profile. And Margaret, Councilmember Abacoga.
Let me, if I could continue, I guess.
I didn't know if you wanted, Margaret, if you wanted to.
Oh, if you want to respond.
I think
sure.
you wanted to further respond to your question.
Yeah, please.
Thank you, President Jones. I just wanted to add my 2 cents. I think I'm the one who's been on this association board for the longest amount of time. over 4 terms. And so I've seen the progression of the association. And, I'll be honest, when I first started, it was a time when we were questioning whether we should exist. But since then, I think our activity has grown. We've spoken out, and we wrote a white paper on affordable housing early on that has led to a lot of the housing policies, affordable housing. Even the bond that the county passed, I think really kind of came from that. The genesis was from that white paper that we co-authored with the Housing Trust. The Silicon Valley Clean Energy came out of this association. Even before that, the plastic ban, or single-use plastic bag ban, came out of this association. And then more recently, the Planning Collaborative. So I think we've become a lot more active, and as our issues are more regional, I think it is important to have a voice, a collective voice in Santa Clara County. I see looking forward issues like actually from like my MTC and the Bay Area Housing Finance Authority. We're going to need to weigh in on whether we want to support a regional housing ballot measure, funding measure. So there, I think it is important to have that collective voice for the region. So, I really think it's important to. I really appreciate the collaborative nature of this group. The other thing I wanted to point out was COVID, frankly. It was from this association that we wrote that letter with all the mayors signing on to it, to the county supervisors, asking them to provide testing that led to then vaccination sites, testing sites, vaccination sites, and the weekly meeting that all the mayors had every Saturday morning through 2020 and 2021 that many of us participated in. So I think we do really have a, an important role. And I do hope that folks feel that way and will continue to support the association. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor, are you sold, or I got another 20 minutes of material?
I just a couple more minutes. You guys are such fantastic leaders, and I'm really privileged to be part of this organization and what you guys do. I was just looking at it, and obviously what you've done, I don't have that history. Whatever you've done, because we don't have a lobbyist directly that we're paying for to doing lobbying, whether it could be done on a basis where we continue with the association. I'm not saying there should not be an association. I'm questioning is who should be picking up the tab. Whether somebody like the city of San Jose could use their own resources for council or their general manager to run whatever needs to be run, and then hire consultants as you need specific things that need to be done. So I'm just throwing that out. You're mainly picking up the tab, so I really shouldn't be arguing too much about it. I do want to be able to limit our liability though for Monte Sereno, and so we can, but that's a separate issue, and we can address that hopefully in a way that the small cities don't have the same exposure that everybody else does. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys sharing your wealth of knowledge with me. Thank you.
Thank you. And the person who wants to make the motion, if they want to make a motion to reduce San Jose's contribution, I'm not gonna stop you. Councilmember Watanabe.
Thank you, Chair Jones. No, I just wanted to add on to Javid's question and response. In terms of lobbying, this issue has come up before, and Santa Clara is very fortunate that we've got a great lobbyist, Washington and Sacramento, and on occasion, when we've gotten opinions from our lobbyists, it's Townsend and Townsend. I've shared that opinion. I think I just shared something with NISA recently. In regards to a bill that we were considering and the position that they were recommending to our city. And I've done it on the roundtable as well, the airport roundtable. So I think that those are resources, again, that we can share with each other and provide, because, we're all in this together. And so whatever support we can give to each other, I mean, I'm always willing to help. And I know we're all in that, feel that way as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sack.
Thanks. Just wanted to touch on, is there an ability to use our own internal town resources? I caution against that because then we get into a dynamic where the larger cities with more resources will start to take on the leadership roles. And I think one of the great things about this organization is that every municipality has an equal voice now. And so I just wanted to remind everyone that we don't, like a town of Los Gatos, last year during President, I could not have relied on my town manager to also run it. So there is some unidentified costs that are benefiting the smaller cities. So thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Mock.
I would just have to say, Javid, that no town lives in isolation just by themselves. So in Los Altos Hills, our intent is to be able to reach out to the rest of the community. We are isolated by our large lots. We don't have many people here. And we want to be part of the global village here in the Santa Clara Valley. That's all.
Thank you. If there are no further comments, Mayor Wailea.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Jones. Just a quick request, Kathy. I love what you shared with NISA. Please send it our way as well. There are other smaller cities. Thank you. Would love the information that can help us.
All right. Councilmember Flagger.
No, I'll just quickly respond to Mayor Walia. Kathy shared it with me to share with the Legislative Action Committee. So it was already shared with all the city's representatives on the LAC. And then I was actually waiting for Mayor Burt to raise his hand because he and I are here in Sacramento for the League's City Summit. And when we met with a few legislators, they were very specific to say groups like the Cities Association and the Peninsula Division sending in letters or adopting resolutions as a body is very effective. And Pat and I remember looked at each other because they were basically letting us know that these organizations really can make a difference.
Great. Mayor Burt?
Quickly on that note, just to echo Nisa, yeah, I think we were all surprised by how strongly several of the local legislators emphasized that they thought we had a lot of influence and we were under exercising it. So that was enlightening to a bunch of us. Thanks.
Thank you. I want to ask, are there any members of the public who would like to comment on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Yes, Councilmember Abacoca.
I make a motion to approve the proposed budget and the fee dues increases. And if I remember correctly, the dues increase, there's an addition to that we would direct the treasurer to work with the executive director on the dues and to revise the dues, basically starting from scratch or coming up with a better dues schedule based on all of the input that we've received from folks. So this will be for this coming fiscal year, but I believe we directed the treasurer and the acting executive director to come back to us in September with a proposal for a new dues schedule.
Great, thank you. Can I get a second, please?
Mr. Chair, I'll second.
Awesome. Auden, we have a motion and a second.
All right, I will now call the roll. Mock?
Yes.
Mock, aye. Watanabe?
Yes.
Watanabe, aye. Walia?
Aye.
Malia, I. Elahi,
Aye.
Elahi, I. Laro Munoz,
Aye.
Laro Munoz, I. Bybee,
Aye.
Bybee, I. Jones,
Aye.
Jones, I. Klein,
Aye.
Klein, I. Abakoga,
Aye.
Abakoga, I. Sayok,
Aye.
Sayok, I. Paul, is absent. Fliger,
Yes.
Fliger, I. And Bert.
Yes.
Bert, I. With 12 ayes, the motion carries.
Great, thank you. So on to the next item, the June 9th general meeting, membership meeting update. And I'll get that update that everything's in place. It's gonna be at the Winchester Mystery House. Save the date. If you haven't received one, you will receive one shortly. It's gonna be a dinner with, heavy hors d'oeuvres. There's gonna be tours of the Winchester Mystery House. So if you haven't done it in a while, it's a brand new experience. And then we're gonna have optional axe throwing, which is an experience in itself if you haven't done that. And we're looking forward to having a big turnout. We're gonna have Russell Hancock as the keynote speaker and other surprises. So looking forward to having everyone attend. And do we have any members of the public that would like to comment on this item? Do we have any members of the board that'd like to comment? And if not, we'll move on to the next item, which is hiring of new acting executive director, and Councilmember Abakoga will tell us more.
Thank you, President Jones. We've already discussed it quite a bit, but
Hey, you can say, rewind the tape.
so yes, but I can add a little bit more. So unfortunately, we will be losing Joanne at the end of June, and so we need to find a new acting executive director. So again, Mariko and I are on that committee. We have put a job description together and begun circulating it just amongst folks that we've been folks that have been referred to us, and we do have a candidate, and so the hope is that I guess we won't be having a June meeting, but we may need to have a special meeting to formally hire someone if possible before Joanne's departure. Happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Thank you. I think there's some opposition to Joanne leaving.
Yes, I move opposition.
All right, duly noted. I think Joanne will have a difference of opinion on that. She's ready to get back to her grandchildren, but all right, I don't see, are there any members of the public who'd like to comment? Don't see any hands. Okay, on to the next item. We're not going to have a city manager's report today. Executive director.
Sarah's here. Is she not going to? She just.
Oh, sorry, Sarah, I didn't see you. Okay, we will have a city managers association update.
Hi, good evening. Sorry, it took me a little longer to put the kids to bed today. Good evening. At the last city managers meeting, the majority of the meeting was around a presentation related to the state budget. There was a discussion on the anticipated surplus, and in addition to a discussion around the governor's May revise, which will actually be coming out tomorrow. They also talked about SB 1100, the Cortese bill, which would amend the Brown Act to allow the removal of individuals that may be disrupting meetings. And in a more recent conversation, they also discussed AB 2181, which is the bill related to VTA governance amendments. Their next meeting will be in person, and I think that is that's about all the majority of what they discussed.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Now on to the executive director update.
Okay, well, thank you. I've really enjoyed working with all of you, and I look forward to seeing you in person in June. And some of you I already knew, and those I don't, I look forward to meeting with you. We will be sending out the announcement in the next day, and we will have people sign up on Eventbrite. And so we will be sending that flyer and information out to each one of you. And again, thank you for coming tonight. I know that many of you had other things on your calendar because you were in Sacramento, and I really appreciate you taking the time to meet tonight. So all in all, thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. On to joys and challenges. Do we have any joys and challenges? Well, I'll throw out a little joy as I'm starting to enter into like my midpoint of my term as president. I will say that it has been a joy to work with all of you and work through this very interesting, I'm not gonna say challenging, I'm gonna say very interesting period. And everybody that I've been working with in the Cities Association has been very professional, very respectful, and just a joy to work with. So that's my joy. Mayor Klein?
Sure, and thank you for being at the helm, Chappie. My joy is actually about just over a week ago, we opened our first Magical Bridge all access, all ages playground, and definitely, and I know a lot of cities are working on these right now, and just for what I've heard from residents and, parents, ages, young and old, I think it's been really great for the community. It is becoming an attraction already. And I do think, I know that for those cities that are working on it and working with the county for additional funding, it's worth every dime. I do think that, it is something that each of our cities should really have. So if you get a chance, definitely search it out in Sunnyvale. I think every time, every new instantiation of this, Magical Bridge Foundation is finding better ways to improve that. And I think they just get better and better. So just happy that we're finally able to do that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Ellie.
Thank you. And I guess my joy is probably giving you guys challenge all the time. That seems like it. I brought this up earlier. So if you can set up a committee or something that looks at limiting the liability of the really small cities so that our liability is somewhat related to our population, that may help, and then agendize it so we can all discuss how that could be changed. Because if you're 0.17% of the population, maybe our liability should be limited to 0.17% of whatever is coming up, or to some other number, but it would be helpful to examine that. So I'd request we, at some point, set up a committee to do that.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Leroy Munoz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to start with the challenge and then go to the joy side of things, because I like to start with the bad news, then finish on the good. So the challenge is dealing here in Gilroy with trying to address the future of our Garlic Festival, which everyone knows throughout the region and throughout the world, actually. And, the Garlic Festival Association that's been putting it on for years and years, unfortunately, has had some challenges financially over the years. And then what we saw kind of compounding the difficulty was obviously the insurance difficulties after the shooting in 2019, and then having 2 years of essentially no revenue in 20 and 21 as a result of COVID canceling the festival. So very much a challenge trying to figure out how we hang on to an event that really does showcase the very best of our community. So that's the challenge. The joy is just really hearing from people about how much this event resonates with people. When news got out that, the Garlic Festival was going to be, indefinitely shut down. I heard from people all over the country. I heard from high school classmates I hadn't heard from in years. Like, for whatever reason, our festival resonates with people. And so I see that as a joy, knowing that there are people who care and who really do respond to this event, which is so important to us in the city, but it's great to know that it's important to others as well. So joy and a challenge at the same time.
Thank you. Councilmember Watanabe.
Thank you, Chair Jones. Two joys, and one of which some of the ladies here were a part of. And I just want to thank Margaret for the great rally that she put together along with Congresswoman Eshoo and Lofgren last week regarding the proposed, after the memorandum was released in Washington, talking about the proposed, the draft opinion regarding Roe versus Wade. A great rally was put together with great, elected women in the Bay Area, coming together and supporting, and speaking out against, this potential change. And it was just great, again, that's, we know each other through Cities Association, but it's another example of how we can all get together and support each other. So it was a great opportunity. So thank you again, Margaret, for that. And then the city of Santa Clara actually had its first in-person race, 5K and 10K race. Thank you to Silicon Valley Leadership Group, and Peter Leroy Munoz was there. He was the MC of the event. He did a fabulous job. And it was great to have about 1,200 runners there participating, young and old, dogs, and just everybody was there. So Mayor Gilmore and I were in attendance, to welcome everybody and to thank, Silicon Valley Leadership Group, for their support, and, all the other sponsors that just did a fantastic job. And it was just nice to be in person. Hopefully next year it'll be back up to about 2,000 runners, and we'll just keep this activity going that's benefiting, the youth of our communities. And so great organization. And again, thank you, Peter, for being there.
Thank you, council member. I'm going to go into training so I can be out there next year, at least handing out water bottles. Mayor Burt.
Yeah, thanks. So I just want to share the excitement we have in Palo Alto over what we believe is an imminent approval of from the State Home Key Fund for our transitional housing project with Life Moves, that is for both families and individuals with full support services to transition them to permanent housing and sufficiency. So we're waiting day by day for the official word, but we're very hopeful right now and excited about it.
Outstanding. Thank you. So that was the last hand raised. So that is it. This meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Joanne.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Joanne. Good night.
Thank you, Joanne.